Friends, very rarely do I choose to go live without giving like a serious amount of advance notice. But the things that happened today, the breaking news by the Washington Post is causing me to do a quick emergency live because what in the entire fuck is happening. So I'm calling an emergency town hall meeting of damnation because y'all, like, what the fuck? Go grab your friends. Friends, like I said at the top, rarely do I ever randomly go live. But the decision today by the Washington Post to follow suit with the LA Times to choose not to endorse a presidential candidate for the first time since 1988 is cause for alarm. And so I'm calling an emergency damnation town hall meeting because, folks, democracy doesn't die in darkness, as is the tagline of the Washington Post. It actually dies in broad fucking daylight with everyone watching. So, the Washington Post, along with the LA Times, because of Jeff Bezos and his concern about his government contracts for Amazon and not wanting to get on the wrong side of Donald Trump, has decided that he's not going to have the paper that he bought endorse a presidential candidate this year. The same thing happened with the LA Times, which has resulted, as if you all were here at 12 p.m. Eastern with Wajahat and I for Democracy Ish, the LA Times did the same thing, which has resulted in several of their editors quitting because they don't want to be silent in the age of fascism. Folks, this is exactly what happens when we are just not paying attention. Everyone has written a whole host of op-eds and books on fascism, on what to pay attention to, right? I have talked many times about Masha Gessen and their piece on how to survive an autocrat that went viral back in the 2016 election cycle. You have people like Jason Stanley that have literally written the books, right, about tyranny and fascism. Ruth Ben Ghiat, one of a friend of the New Abnormal and my other shows, has been on X talking about the fact that you don't just take the knee, bend the knee to authoritarianism before it even happens. Folks, we are still days away. People are in the midst of early voting. The last day to vote is on November 5th, and the LA Times and the Washington Post has already decided who the next president of the United States is going to be. And by the way, let me just be clear, Donald Trump is actually not going to be president of the United States. He is going to be a dictator on day one, which is what he has said. So the last president of the United States will be Joe Biden if, in fact, Donald Trump wins the election. But to me, it's like mainstream corporate media is already signaling to us what they are going to do. And by the Washington Post has the audacity to have their tagline about democracy dies in darkness. No, bitch, you're killing it right now. I gotta be. I have to say, folks, and I'm raising the alarm today, right now, because as I'm going in social media and going over what is happening right now, whether you have, the viral video that we showed earlier on Democracy Ish with Charlemagne Charlemagne the God on CNN with Anderson Cooper saying, you guys are out here asking questions about Kamala Harris's race more so than you are talking about the fact that the other candidate for president is talking about weaponizing the US military against its own people. Right? Dana Bash said recently, oh, well, my sources say, following the CNN town hall, that Kamala Harris just isn't sealing the deal. Do you know who is going to seal the deal? Or I should say, put the final nail in the coffin of American democracy? It is going to be Donald Trump, aided and abetted by not only the Supreme Court of the United States, which gave him absolute immunity in July, but it is going to be corporate mainstream media that is sitting around like they are literally extras from the fucking Netflix movie Don't Look Up, sitting around saying, I know that Donald Trump is talking about fascism and sending his political enemies to Guantanamo, but, let's keep it cheery and a little bit up. We don't want people to, tune out. I feel crazy. I feel crazy. I had a phone call with my dad today. And for those of you who do not know, but I find the need to say it to folks that are new, my dad is white, right? And is a lovely, incredible, Italian white guy. And he called me today and he said, Danielle, what do you think? Do you think that, can you say whether or not Kamala is going to win? I want her to win, but is it really going to be too close to call? And how will our lives really change? Will my life really change? And I said, Dad, I'm going to say this. Will your life change as a cis hetero white man? Maybe not immediately, but your life will absolutely change because my life and my sister's life and my mom's life will absolutely change right the fuck away. I am a Black queer woman, right, who has made a career out of educating the public on social justice, educating the public on democracy. Donald Trump has called me and people like me the enemy within. So how safe do you think that people like myself are going to be? Do you think that independent media, do you think that media will exist in the Trump regime? Why don't we go ask people in China where they get their information from? I talked about this earlier with Wajahat on here, and we said, we're talking about Elon Musk, right? And the fact that Elon Musk has top security fucking clearance and is just hanging out on conversation, on calls with Vladimir Putin on a regular basis, has been doing so since 2021. But the United States is not breaking away from its relationship with Elon Musk. And the question is why? Oh, because it'll compromise the United States' space ambition. I don't give a fuck about what is happening on Mars. I got to tell you right now, maybe call me crazy, call me ignorant, but I don't care about what is happening on Mars because I give a shit about what is happening here on Earth. I give a shit about the rise of fascism that is happening on this planet. I give a shit about the fact that we have people that do not have the title of President of the United States having conversations on a regular basis with the world's dictators. How is this not treason, folks? The United States is literally in bed with Elon Musk, giving him $1.8 billion worth of government contracts there. Not only is Elon Musk the richest man in the world, he is also the most powerful man in the world. Something somebody said earlier today in the chat of Democracy-ish, they said, you know what? You know what's wild is that I think that Donald Trump, right? He may be the figurehead, but it's Elon Musk that is going to be running a shadow government. He already has clearance, folks. He already knows more about what is happening in these United States than any other citizen. Because, his technology in Starlink, you mean the ability to stop Ukraine from being able to put up drone attacks? Because he can flip a switch? No one should have that much power. No one. Jeff Bezos, the other billionaire who can decide that a legacy news outlet is no longer going to endorse presidential candidates because he's worried about his fucking government contracts. We are already living inside of an American oligarchy, friends. Like, this is already what this looks like. We're 10 days away from the final day of voting, and these oligarchs are already coming out and showing us where their cards are. They are in bed with Donald Trump. It is the Supreme Court, the federal courts, right? Mainstream media, the American oligarchs. The only way that Kamala Harris wins is if enough of us decide that we have had enough. Because let me tell you something. Somebody said this also earlier today. They said, I am tired of feeling like a pawn in the billionaire boys club, in their little game of manifest destiny, because that's what it is. They want to take over and have ownership over everything. And folks, we are just cogs in a machine, their machine. But the only way that their machine continues to work is if we remain complicit, right? Is if we believe them when they say that they are doing things for our betterment. Let me tell you something. Starlink, not helpful, not when it's not fucking regulated, right? This is the thing. These places like Meta, right? While Mark Zuckerberg may not be an Elon Musk, what he's doing with Meta on Instagram and Facebook is absolutely no different. Because do you know what they've done? They've absolutely and completely suppressed any mention of votes, any mention of democracy. Because on Threads and on Instagram and Facebook, they've decided that, you know what? The American people really don't want to hear about politics. So they turn that switch off for you. So unless you actually go into your accounts, right, on each of those platforms and say that you want to see politics, whether that be from your neighbor down the street or from the New York Times or from Al Jazeera America, unless you go in each and every time and say that you want access to politics, just know that the algorithm has already decided to opt you out of democracy. That's what Mark Zuckerberg is doing. So between Meta, Threads, fucking X, like, folks, these people are dictating what we see, what we hear, what we know. They are laying out and completely designing an alternate reality right now, friends. And we're just sitting around waiting for the next blow. And do you know who's egging this on? Congress. Because Congress refuses to figure out how we regulate these fucking technocrats. Because basically, they don't know the difference between a fucking iPhone, right? A Samsung. They don't know the difference between an algorithm or data. Now, they don't know anything. You're talking about septuagenarians and octogenarians, right? That need to be told the difference between like a DM and a fucking tweet. And these are the people that are deciding whether or not like the Apples and the Googles of the world are monopolies, whether or not they are actually being transparent with their audiences. But here's the transparency that you need to know is that when these news outlets are coming out now, like the LA Times, like the Washington Post, and they are saying that they are not endorsing a political candidate, know that they are endorsing a political candidate, and it is Donald Trump. Right? Their non-endorsement is an endorsement for fascism. So you don't have to wonder what Jeff Bezos thinks. He just fucking told you today. Now, Elon Musk tells us on a regular basis whether we want to hear it or not. But understand too that every bit of information that we are trying to get out is being suppressed at this time. And no, dear friends, this is not a conspiracy theory whatsoever. This is real talk, real shit right now. They don't want democracy. None of these CEOs and these stakeholders and these politicians want it. And do you want to know why? It's because in a democracy, people, all people have a voice, right? And I'm not saying America is perfect. If you've been listening to me for any amount of time on any of my shows, you know that I have always critiqued this country because it is my job as a citizen. It is our job as citizens of this country to critique it, right? James Baldwin once said, I can critique America because I love America. I want America to be better. And you don't have something become better by allowing it to be complacent or allowing it to roll back. Donald Trump is talking to us about 1798. It's his new favorite fucking year. Do you know who wasn't a citizen in 1798? Women. Do you know who else weren't citizens in 1798? Black people, people of color, indigenous folks. Do you know the only people that had power, right? Because they had property? White men. These people are telling you all the ways that they are choosing to move, and they are lining up. They are lining up all of their pieces right now. The only way that we survive is if we fight with our vote right now. That's it. That's all we have. Because they literally have taken everything away. But this is the thing, folks, because let me tell you something. This is heading to a very dark place. If the results, after the election do not go our way. And it will get real dark, real fucking quick. Because the whole point of Project 2025 was about having people in place on day one. They will undo democracy before the first 100 days are over. They will go into the Department of Justice. They will defund the Department of Education, which Donald Trump just said recently on Fox and Friends. Oh, we don't need the Department of Education. Oh, if the state of California wants to talk about some quote unquote woke things, like the actual real truth about the founding of this nation and whose backs it was on, well, he said, we just won't fund them. Much in the same way that he didn't want to send resources, FEMA aid to North Carolina during his administration because he needed to see the numbers of how people voted first. So they were 2 weeks delayed after a hurricane under his administration, and then wanted to go ahead and spread lies about the most recent storms. Folks, we are living in wild times where we have to understand that these people only continue to build wealth and power if we are not paying attention and if we continue to opt into their bullshit, right? Because I have said this before, and I will say it again. Things are going to get bloodier in this country before they get better. I will say it again. Things are going to get bloodier in this country before they get better. And the reason being is because they are so close to being able to seize absolute power. They are so close, and they are willing to do everything and anything in order to seize it. So the only way that the Bezos and the Musks of the world continue to make money, right, is if we continue to give them money. Because at some point, the majority of us have got to say enough is a fuck enough. That is what this election is about. The Wall Street Journal. Let me read to you what the fuck the Wall Street Journal just said. Because folks, I almost died because I was like, are we serious, Wall Street Journal? This is what you're doing? So because I don't have it to put up because I went live very quickly, they put out on Threads, quote, months after she replaced President Biden atop the Democratic ticket, Kamala Harris has struggled to explain how her presidency would differ from his. Harris struggles to distinguish candidacy from Biden. Are we serious with that? Wall Street Journal? Are we serious? You also just recently put out an entire investigative report into Elon Musk and his ties to Vladimir Putin, which you just hipped us all to. But this is the type of shit that you all are putting out? This type of shit about she can't distinguish her? Well, do you know who can't distinguish themselves? Donald Trump can't seem to distinguish himself from Hitler, right? He can't seem to distinguish what it is his plans are for America versus what Hitler's plans were for Germany. The only thing that Donald Trump hasn't uttered right now are concentration camps. That's it. Because everything else has been on the fucking table. You have people on Fox talking about, oh, I've never heard anybody more articulate. You heard Representative Chris Sununu saying after he hears John Kelly say, read the definition of fascism and say, yes, Donald Trump is a fascist. And then Chris Sununu, when asked on CNN, are you still going to vote for him? He said, well, it's kind of already baked in. Fascism is already just baked in. That's what we're doing now. Folks, 10 days. We probably, let me see, the election is on the 5th. I'm going to say maybe we will know by my birthday, which is November 10th, who has won this election. But I will tell you right now who is winning the press. It is Donald Trump, because they want him to win. Because Donald Trump is good for billionaires. He is great for their bottom line. If you listened to the Danielle Moody show earlier this week, I put up the graph from an economist that said Donald Trump will basically put the United States into one of the deepest depressions that we have seen, with all of his mass deportations, getting rid of an entire workforce, right? Also using our tax dollars to do it, on top of all of the tariffs that he wants to put on everything that comes into this country. Who's going to pay for it? I'll give you a hint. Just like he told us that Mexico is going to pay for the fucking wall, we're the ones that are going to pay for all of the goods that are coming into this country that he decides to put on a 20, 30, 40, 50% tariff on. That will be the trickle down, right? That buries us all into fucking debt. Y'all, we are in for it. I had to pop on to this live because the lies that are taking hold right now, these people that want to be neutral, right? That think that their neutrality is going to save them while it kills the rest of us, is not it. The Washington Post says democracy dies in darkness. No, it doesn't. Nothing has been happening in darkness, dear friends. Everything has been happening in broad daylight right in front of our faces. Donald Trump's entire administration showed us who he was. All of his rhetoric, all of his lies. And by the way, we have never, my dad, when my conversation today, he said, Danielle, in my entire life, race relations in this country, they've never been like great, but they've been so much worse. He's like, do you think that people just don't see it? I said, no, Dad, they see it. That's why they like him, right? It's not as if they see it and they're just like, you know, like I'll take my, I'll take the Trump steak, but have my racism on the side. No, that shit is smothered in it. They like all of it. So, folks, what I will say and how I will end and this live is, we have 10 days. If you have the ability to donate, donate, because Democrats need every last penny. They're also going to need it in order to be able to have all of these lawsuits that they're probably going to have to fend off. If you remember, right, 2020, Rudy Giuliani was out there running around the country, had 60 court cases laughed out of court. Will they be laughed out this time? Lord only knows. But talk to your friends, talk to your colleagues, talk to your neighbors, right? Ask people, have you voted? If you haven't, what are you waiting for? You don't need to wait for November 5th. You can vote now in a majority of states. Everything is on the line. And these billionaires have already cast their bets. They have put it all on Trump. And they are hoping and praying and working overtime right now in order to ensure that he wins. The only thing standing between us and fascism is our vote and our power. And I have to tell you, and I have to say this because today I'm absolutely fucking hype, is that I'm not going down without a fight. And neither should anybody else. Right? you have to understand what is at risk, right? It isn't just about our lives, it is about generational damage that is being done. If you have kids, if you have grandkids, if you have godkids, right? Like if you have anybody in your life that you care about that is just entering into college, just entering into the workforce, just entering into high school, their lives are going to be remarkably different than yours was at their age. It is so disgustingly unfair. So we have got to fight for them, folks. Like I cannot express this enough. We have got to fight for them, not just for ourselves, but for the future. Because I don't know if we see Roe v. Wade restored in our lifetime. I don't know if we see affirmative action restored. I don't know if we see the Voting Rights Act restored. I don't know. But we let go of the pain and the deep frustration when we take ourselves out of it, right? And we work off of a different timeline, right? That takes our ego and ourselves out and puts our children and our grandchildren, right? And our young loved ones and put them out front instead and think about them and their lives because that's what is at stake. So do everything that you can. Leave it all on the table. Leave it all on the field, whatever it is that people do and say. But it is not enough for you just to say, I voted, right? Or like my household voted. How did your friends vote? White women, I'm specifically talking to you. How did your friends vote? How did the rest of your family vote? Tell them that those that are, married to these men that tell them, you have to vote with me, or they are afraid that their vote is going to be found out. Tell them that it won't, because that is the truth. Your vote is your business. So vote like your life and the lives of future generations depend on it, because it absolutely fucking does. That is it for me today, dear friends. Y'all, let's collectively take a deep breath in and out. We are going to get through all of this together. We are going to continue the work. We're going to continue the education. We are going to continue moving this country forward. Thank you so much. For those of you that are watching this on my Twitter live, please head over to YouTube and subscribe and like. And for those of you that are in the chat, subscribe, like. The algorithms love all of these things, but independent media is all we got, folks, because these corporate mainstream folks do not give a fuck about us. Okay? They sure don't. As always, dear friends, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay safe, and in these extraordinary times, my dear friends, stay sane. And there's the dog giving us our exit. I'll be back here on Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern for the Danielle Moody Show, and a new episode of Get Woke will be up tomorrow with my Woke Woman of the Week. See you then. Bye.